Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. Eli Manning throwing for 6 touchdowns in his return home against the Saints and lost the game. Who was the last quarterback to throw 6 touchdown passes against the New Orleans Saints? It wasn't Charlie Johnson. It was, the other Manning, Peyton Manning, for the Colts in 2003 as they came in and trashed the Saints in that particular game. That came a year after the Saints actually beat the Colts in the Dome, 28-21. The next year, Peyton came back and they just had their way. So there it is, Manning to Manning, in a stadium where Manning once played and is in the Ring of Honor and in the Saints Hall of Fame, and that's a whole lot of Mannings. It's time now for our hot seat segment where we put Brian Ellie Walsh on the hot seat with a hot topic of the day, and there's none hotter than this. Miami 30, Duke 27. Given what we know now, should the outcome of that game be overturned? Real simple. Should they change the winner of the game? Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. I watched it live, when it happened, and I still, to this moment, as you look at the way the touchdown and the play developed, that was surprising in and of itself. But the fact that they missed so many blatant penalties on that call after, nearly 10 minutes of review, this is my beef. In answer to your question, no, they shouldn't change the outcome. One, it's very simple, is that there are no rules in place for that to occur. Now, is that a consideration down the road? Perhaps, but in today's format, that is not a consideration. But what is a consideration is this. There's a reason why the replay booth and the officials are there to look at the replay. It's to get it right. And you can't tell me that there were at least 4 or 5 occasions that could have resulted in that play being nullified. The bottom line is this. The way it was explained by a former rules official is that technically the play should have been downed, or the play should, the way the game should have ended is this, that Miami gets 1 untimed down at the 4-yard line. Now that's taking into account a block in the back. If the knee down, of course, the game is over at that point. Everything else is nebulous. But guys running onto the field with helmet in hand, you can't tell me that somebody didn't have enough sense up there to go, this game should have been decided on the replay. But Kenny, just an answer to the question, simple. No, it should not be overturned until rules are in place for it to happen.
Well, I agree with you, Brian. It shouldn't be overturned because once they found it's over with, it's always in football it's been over with. You can't go back and recorrect that. But we know on the way to that everything went wrong, and the referee should be accountable for that. And I think that a lot of them should get suspended, and a lot of them maybe shouldn't be able to referee no more because it looked like to me they took it, they wanted Miami to win the ball game. And that's what it seemed like to me because they should have stopped that game. The game should have, whistle should have been blown. The game should have been over with.
That crew did get a 2-game suspension, Ricky, and rightfully so. And, you make a great point. They're not full-time officials, but there's a reason why you play this game. And look, we all understand that there's a lot of money being spent on college football. And for the game to have that kind of an outcome, again, I go back to they have the ability to overturn that call, and they didn't use it wisely, and so that it takes the game away from the kids and it puts it on adults who don't make the right decisions.
Right, and that's the whole thing about it, Brian. A lot of these kids, they playing football. A lot of these kids ain't gonna go to pro, and they're gonna have this remembered in their bank for a long time, and they're gonna feel like they was cheated, they was did wrong. And how can that happen to them as from grown people like it did? You know what I mean? So they're going to stick with some of them.
One final thought. I thought David Cutcliffe was a class gentleman in defeat. Okay, that could have easily escalated into something really ugly. And I thought Miami did a good job. I know in victory they did a good job of just containing themselves a little bit too. But look, the special teams guy for Miami who returns the ball for the touchdown, Kenny informs us that he was named ACC Special Teams Player of the Week. So how do you balance that out? You got, so anyway.
Well stated, well discussed, and trying to put a cherry on top of the whipped cream. So many thoughts came to my mind. The fifth down plays, of course, those of us that have been around forever remember my late great friend Bruce Miller screaming, "It's fifth down, Benny, Benny, it's fifth down," as if Benny Ellender could hear him from the press box at the old Orange Bowl Stadium in Miami, where the University of Miami and Frank Kersey's Hurricanes got a fifth down. There's Miami again. They got it. And, of course, they went on to win the game against Tulane. That was early 70s. And then, of course, Cordell Stewart, I think it was 1990, when the Colorado Buffaloes beat Missouri, and they got a fifth down. They went on to win a national championship in the process, and that was just remarkably wrong. It was clearly wrong, and the wrong team won in both instances. And then, of course, when you see this game, it harkens back to the River City relay that the Saints had in Jacksonville, and, of course, the miracle in Nashville that happened in the playoffs as well. And, of course, the Saints game was a memorable one because they missed the extra point after they scored the touchdown, and the extra point cost them the game. They lost by 1. But when I looked at this play, it was remarkable how much they missed. Not one, but 2 blatant blocks in the back. Blatant as can be. Then, of course, a player running on the field, you can't do that. With the play still going on, and also with his helmet off, that's a violation. But by rule, that would not have changed the touchdown. It would have been a penalty after the fact. But everything else would have changed the touchdown. Blocked in the back, enforced from the point of the foul, move it back, and there's no touchdown. They get it on time down. But that said, the knee was down, the play was over, the game was over. Duke won the game on the field. They should be the winner. It's that simple. But you can't change it. Rules are rules for a reason, and the rule states that once you walk off, it's over, and the winner is Miami. And that, my friends, is terribly unfortunate. 2-game suspension, not enough. College and high school football when we return on Sports NOLA TV.